Hello, Grand Rapids. This is City Manager Mark Washington. Good to be with you today. Welcome to summer. So much is happening in our community this past weekend. We celebrated both Father's Day, Happy Father's Day to those of you that are fathers, but also Juneteenth. And I'm reminded every day of the importance of Juneteenth in several ways, but one way is the actual Emancipation Proclamation, or a copy of it that I keep in my office. I've done so ever since the first day of my appointment to remind me of the importance of liberation and equity for all. And I also recall meeting on several occasions Opal Lee, who is now affectionately known as the grandmother of Juneteenth, as she's brought national awareness to the importance of remembering that difficult part of our history, but important part of our history, so that we ensure that it's never repeated again. And locally, I had a chance to spend time in Dickinson Park with Mama Jewel and others as we celebrated here in Grand Rapids the meaning of Juneteenth and the importance of embracing equity, diversity, and inclusion throughout our community. This past week, the City Commission discussed quite a few ideas and topics. One was the participatory budgeting process. As you know, that is a process that allocates about $2 million for community-involved, community-engaged ideas on how to allocate money throughout our city, and there has been over 434 ideas. So there is a citizen-led task force committee that will be working with more and engaging more community members as part of the budget steering group to further vet those ideas and identify the top ones that we can engage all Grand Rapidians on and have some type of public voting process in the month of September, October. And I'm looking forward to that process as well as the implementation of the ideas. There was also a lot of discussion at the last City Commission meeting around public safety. Chief Winstrom provided an update on crime within our community, but also crime prevention, as well as much discussion occurred about how to improve policing, improving trust, and particularly in light of the recent killing of Patrick Leoya. And so Chief Winstrom will be updating City Commission on July 26th with his observations on things that he has identified that will help to improve policing and having better safe outcomes. We've also have been very diligent and intentional about engaging the refugee community. I want to thank A Glimpse of Africa, as well as many of the leaders in the Congolese community, to include those that are faith-based leaders in Congolese community, but also the Black community at large, and everyone who's really been helping us to make sure that there is an inclusive lens for our immigrant refugee community. But we also discuss the efforts of the SAFE Taskforce. This year we have 11 homicides year to date. And so we have to continue to focus on crime prevention as well as response. And on the prevention side, the SAFE Taskforce has allocated a recommended allocation of $40,000 for a gun buyback program. The City Commission did approve that. But the city is also wants to make sure that those who do commit violent crimes are held accountable. And the chief will be providing an update on the closure rate of some of the solve rate of some of the pending homicides. And nationally, it's about a 55% solve rate on violent crimes, particularly homicides. And last year, over 75% roughly of our cases were solved. And I think the chief will give an update this year, and we'll have a higher solve rate on that. And so we want to make sure that we both can prevent the occurrence of crime with both traditional and non-traditional services, like some positive engagement, ensuring that our youth, through our Grow 1000 program, which also started this past week. I want to thank our employers, our nonprofit organizations, business leaders who are positively employing our youth throughout many industries throughout the city. I'm looking forward to having a couple of interns in my office this summer as well. And I want to thank Bank of America for their partnership with Grow 1000, and not only having traditional high school youth, but the academy, in which we're extending it for much longer than summer employment for those that are students and looking for career opportunities. We also talked about some of the work of the Oversight Office and Mr. Davis, as well as our partners from Cure Violence in the Urban League gave an update about some of the efforts that they are doing to interrupt as well as prevent the episode of violence in our community. And the City Commission also received a briefing from WMCAT and partners at the Aspen Institute on some of the more systematic collective work that we can do as a community to ensure that we have better outcomes with both safety and housing and economic security. And a lot of good work is going on. I also spoke to the City Commission and the public about the opportunity to have these conversations within the wards of each of our parts of our city. And we will be working with the National Civic League and other local partners to make sure that we can have deliberative dialogue around some of these topics, because we know that 3 minutes during public comment at City Commission, it is an opportunity for us to hear from the public, but not necessarily the most conducive environment for engagement and dialogue and really problem solving on some of these issues. Lots of things going on. We're also working on, or the City Commission approved yesterday, the policy on the acquisition and disposal of land, particularly land that is acquired through the foreclosure process, but we want to ensure that it is redeveloped for, or reused rather, for affordable housing, either home ownership or rental or multifamily housing. And we have prioritized affordability and local ownership as part of that policy, and we'll be looking forward to implementing it with our nonprofit developers, but also with the members of the Affordable Housing Fund, and see how we can incentivize more housing development in our community. So lots of stuff happening in our city. It's a great time to be a Grand Rapidian moving forward. I am very hopeful about the future of our community. I know we've been through some very challenging times this spring, but I remain hopeful and optimistic that collectively we can pull together. It is not always easy. It has not always been easy, particularly for our community members, but also for our members in our police department. It has been challenging for officers to continue to serve with the amount of scrutiny that has been on our city and on our department, and I do want to thank them for their continued service in our police chief, but also our community partners. And together we have to find a way with our community to make our community as well as our department better, and I'm looking forward and committed to that work. So thank you for tuning in, and look forward to talking to you next month.